Saad sang the national anthem at the first softball game, and he said he was jamming it out too.
Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this. We have lesson 1.1, which is on variables and expressions today. So we're moving into chapter 1. So if you remember, this is going to be what's going to be on our first test. Okay, this stuff. So an expression, these should be reviewed. Okay, you should already know an expression is basically sums and or products of numbers. An expression does not have an equal sign. That's what you need to remember here. A variable is a symbol used to represent numbers or values. Symbol used to represent numbers or values. Most famous variable used is probably x. You could have y, n, m. And then a term is a number or a number variable or a product or quotient of numbers and variables. That is what's called a term. So we have a term here listed below. Now each of these terms has a specific part. This 2x is called the variable term. Why? Because it's got a variable. Okay, this 4, does anybody know what term that's called? That's called the constant term because it's a constant. There's no variable there. Variable term, constant term. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this. Factors. Factors are quantities being multiplied, and that should make sense. When you multiply two numbers together, they're each called a factor. The product is the result of a multiplication problem. Now down here below, there are 5 different ways that products can be symbolized. The first way is just xy. There's nothing written between them. It's always assumed that that's multiplication. You'll see it written this way with the dot, x dot y. You will also see it written with the y in parentheses. That also means x times y. X is in parentheses, y isn't. Still means x times y. And then both in parentheses. That means x times y. Power. Power is written as x to the n. We read that as x to the nth power. A little bit about that. N is the exponent. That indicates the number of times the base is used as a factor, and the base is x. So example, if I had, let's just say I had x to the 4th power. What that means, the base is x. So that means I'm going to take x times x times x times x 4 times. So I use 4 x's. If I had y to the 6th power, what's that going to mean? Y times y, a total of 6 times. So you have 6 y's. All right, so if we look at this, it says write a verbal expression for each algebraic expression. So if we look at that very first one, 3x to the 4th power, what would be a verbal expression that would work there? 3 times x to the 4th power. So 3 times x to the 4th power. So all you would do is write down 3 times x to the 4th power. What about the next one? What do you think that one's going to be?
Plus 16.
So 5 times z to the 2nd power plus 16, that would work. Is there something else I could do?
5 times z squared plus 16.
That's what I had, 5 times z squared plus 16. So you could either put z squared, or you could put z to the 2nd power, or you could say added to 16. There's numerous ways that you could say that. The very bottom one. Somebody tell me what that's going to be?
1/2
times a
minus 7 over 2 times b.
Oh, 1/2 of a minus 7/2 of b. That would work. Or what I could do is change the of to times. So 1/2 times a minus 7/2 times b. So that's another way I could do that. Either of those is acceptable. Let's go ahead and look at this. These are some kind of keywords. This is from your book. This is a diagram from your book. The operation is addition. Verbal phrases, more than, some, plus, increased by, added to. Those are all words that indicate addition. Subtraction. Those are all words that indicate subtraction. Less than, subtracted from, difference, decreased by, minus. Another thing that indicates subtraction is oh, never mind, it's right there, difference. Multiplication, product of, multiplied by, times, and of. And then division means quotient of divided by. Another one you might see for multiplication is factor. Now I don't know if you'll see that here in this year's stuff, but that is something to keep in mind for future. So a number x more than 6. A number x, that's where I start. I start with x. What does more than? Plus 6. That's it. Let's look at this next one. 10 less than. Okay, less thans are kind of weird. We're going to do something kind of backwards. Whenever you see a less than, you're always going to leave a space, which is right here, and then you're going to put minus 10. Okay, so I've got a space right here that I need to fill in. You've always got to do that. 10 less than does not mean 10 minus. So 10 less than, now I've got a little space here, the product of 7 and k. Product means you do what? Multiply them. I've got 7 and k, so I'm going to put the 7k right here in the space. And so that is how you would write 10 less than the product of 7 and k. So whenever you have less than, remember you leave a space and then put minus whatever the number is. Let's look at the next one. It says 2/3 of the volume V. What does 2/3 mean? 2/3. Of means you do what? Times. And then volume V, I'm just going to put V. Questions on that? You're going to have to write expressions today. All right, very last thing we're going to cover today, and then we'll be done. Mr. Martin ordered 250 keychains printed with his team's logo and 500 pencils printed with their address. Write an algebraic expression that represents the cost of the order. So I've got 250 keychains. I don't know how much they cost. What could we say they cost? X. Or, you know what? How about we use K? Why do you think I used K? Yeah, keychain. Okay, that way it's a little easier to remember if you kind of pick a letter from the keyword there. So 250K, K represents the cost of the keychain. So 250 times the cost of each one will be that. Plus, what do you think I'm going to do with the 500 pencils? 500p, very good. And then that would be the cost of the order. 250K plus 500p. Let's look at this next one. Mr. Hansen purchased some groceries that cost D dollars. He paid with a $50 bill. Write an expression for the amount of change he will receive. So he starts with 50, right? Then what does he do? I subtract D, the cost of the groceries. So $50 minus D will be how much he gets back. That's all you have to do today. It's pretty straightforward. Believe it or not, that's the lesson. You're writing expressions. You're using variables. Any questions on that stuff? This is chapter 1, so or section 1, so it's pretty important. If you have any questions, you need to ask. So come in and see me if you need to. What you need to do on page 7 through 8. So pages 7 through 8, you need to do 12 through 34, the even numbered problems. 12 through 34, the even numbered problems. And that is due tomorrow.